Welcome to the Oil Tech Talk Museum, something I've been talking about for a while and occasionally sharing pictures of the progress. I thought, it's finally at a point where I felt like I could make a short video. The museum is not completely done, not for what I have planned anyhow, so I'm going to say it's about 70% done, but I felt that was enough to maybe share where things are at with my friends and fellow technicians. So just take a little brief walk through here, just showing you some of the older burners and things I've acquired over the years. If you look down here, anybody that's been in the industry, more than 30, 40, 50 years, that's some of us old timers like myself, this little kit was something that wasn't uncommon to be on a service vehicle, because back in the day, it wasn't uncommon to take burner motors apart or take fuel pumps apart and actually change, the motors that change the start switch in them or make repairs to them, fuel pumps that make repairs to replace the fuel pump seals, all things that we wouldn't even think about doing today. Anyhow, so we'll come along here. Here's another one of the older burners I've acquired. Some of you might be familiar with that nozzle wrench, an older thermostat here that goes back probably, I think that one's probably in the 30s or 40s, if I remember correctly. Some of you might remember the inner burner. That was around for a while. And then this right here, this old thermostat is actually a 120 volt thermostat. Want to give a shout out and thanks to my friend Tom Leonetti. He's the one who got this for me, and when he removed it, it was actually still operable. So I'm hoping wherever I decide to finally set this, I have probably about a dozen or more thermostats from back in the day that I want to kind of put a board together with all of them and perhaps be able to run 120 volts to that board, so I can maybe bring this thing back to life. And then right here, this, I call it a metering device. I don't know if that's a proper name for it, but I'll get as close as I can to it. You can see if you were to grab that handle up top here, you could pull out and then move it down, and you can see the 5, 10, 15. It's basically representing gallons. This is from my good friend Richard Barron, and what this was is way back in the day when the fuel was delivered by horse-drawn wagons, and the tank on the wagon, they would actually just take cans like what we today think of as jerry cans. They would take the cans and they would just open a valve, pour fuel into the can, and then carry the fuel over to the customers, uh, to deliver it in the pipe, coming out of the home. And then that way they would keep track of, how many gallons they had delivered, and they'd realize how much more they have left on the tank before they had to go back and refill the tank. So really cool piece to have in the museum. Again, thank you so much, Richard Barron. I appreciate that. And then here, the Oil-Matic, one of my favorite pieces I was able to acquire from the Pennsylvania Petroleum Association. There were several burners in the foyer, and when we were going through some of the reconstruction at the facility about 4 years ago, the decision was made that we were going to go ahead and just really didn't have any place to store them at that point with the construction that was being done. So we actually auctioned the burners off, and all the money that was raised in the auction would go to the Vincent R. Bolts Scholarship Foundation for PPA Tech. So definitely a great cause, and I was fortunate to get a couple of the burners. I'll kind of swing back here really quick. That in-shot burner right there was one of them, and then of course this was the other one, and then there were a few others that others had had bid and won on. And then again, I was fortunate enough. I thank my good friend Ted Harris. These had been in the foyer, and he allowed me to take these so they could just kind of stay with the burner. And it's really, you can see they're actually cut sheets from the manufacturer. And these are original from back in the day. So I staged them in such a way, if I get closer to this one, I got a reflection from my window on the other side of the garage. I apologize, but I don't know if you can see that, but basically that one right there that I'm focused on is this very model burner right here. And then we'll just come along here. You'll see a few more older pieces of equipment that I've acquired. Coming along here, and then these items right here. These are a few things. I'll talk more about them when everything's finally staged, but I do want to just give thanks to George Strunk. He's the one who sent these to me, which was very kind of him. Thank you, George. I love you, brother. And then this here was actually from Robert O'Brien. This was at the Norwood Liquid Fuel Facility in Long Island. And I believe, and yeah, my hand's getting a little cameo here, so that's a carrying case for this tray assembly with the porcelains and electrodes and CAD cell, which was, back when this was being carried around, was considered some of the newest technology coming into the industry. So salesmen would carry this around to show the potential, companies that might be interested in utilizing this technology, which we've come so much further. And then finally, at this end of the table, I have the Blue Angel burner. Uh, a good friend, Jack Myers. Jack, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. For any of you who may not know, there was a short time throughout my stint in this industry that I was actually the technical representative for the Mid-Atlantic region. So, definitely have a connection other than servicing them as a service technician back in the day. Having had the opportunity and the privilege to be their technical representative for the Mid-Atlantic region, that was some really fun times. And then we'll just move on to what I've talked to you a lot of you about is the library. I'm going to kind of go back here a little so you can see I have that custom made sign for the library, and my good friend Jared Fox, he's responsible for the construction of this. I gave him an idea of what I was looking to do, and God bless him. Anytime you give him an idea, he takes it, puts it on paper, brings it back to you, and it's like, holy smokes, that's exactly what I was trying to express that I wanted, and what a beautiful job he did in building this. We've got some more things that are going to be built by Jared in this museum. In fact, I'm going to turn back here just for 1 second. Let me just go along here. If you look at this entire bench that the burners are on, that was one of the first things that Jared had built for me. Then he came, we'll call that phase one. Phase two was the library. And you can see I've been, doing the best I can to kind of fill it up with some of the books that I've collected over the years. A good number of them have been uh, donated by many of my friends in the industry. And then as we come over here, I mentioned that this was about 70% done. So I'll just kind of sneak over the wall right about here. I want to decide where I want to stop because you can see that's kind of blank right there. So at that point, I'm just going to say to be continued.